Whoa, we're back with some Bleach Soul Resonance, and we got the good vibes going on in here. And we're going to be taking a look at Ulquiorra's playstyle, his DPS, B0 performance. We did the gearing video yesterday, so if you want to take a look at my stats and gear in a more definitive manner, maybe see more of my journey to get him to where he is, you can do that. But otherwise, I would just suggest following along because we'll go over some of that soon enough. So, Ulquiorra, 86.5% crit rate. This goes up way past 100%, I believe, if I'm not misunderstanding his his weapon. His 0.4% ultimate charge conversion. We have got his 119% crit damage, and we've got 189% ult charge. Here are the gear pieces really quickly, just so you can get a good look. We do have we need to get pretty lucky. Obviously, this is not perfect gear. I'm not saying it's perfect gear, but that's sort of why I do these videos the way I do them. That's why I focus on B0, B1, B2, free-to-play and low-spending players, so that you can see that this isn't perfect setup, this isn't perfect gear, and you can still clear, you can still sometimes place in ranked, you can do all of these things without missing out as a free-to-play player. If you are not aware, Bleach Soul Resonance is just one of the most free-to-play friendly mobile games on the market, especially in the realm of IP gacha games. So, you know, like I said, this is just one of those things where if you're not really pulling for dupes, if you're not really pulling for, you know, weapon dupes either, you end up having so much currency and you end up getting all the characters. So those are my pieces really quickly. I will say I did craft down, I melted down some bonus core stamps that I got while actually trying to pull for this guy, as well as having one bonus core stamp that I had already melted down. I think it was a Yoruichi core stamp. In the future, I probably will melt down Yoruichi's 5-star core stamp and replace it with a 1-star. I could see myself melting down Urahara's 4 Ascension core stamp, I should be saying. Replace it with a 1-star, or not a 1-star, but a 1 dupe, a 0 dupe. That way I can just get more, you know, dupes on this character. Another thing about this run is I have still been unable to get Szayel core stamp, and I have been trying. So it is what it is. We're using a very generic basic attack boosting one for him. That said, if he does well and he's literally using, you know, cap, you know, this is cap, this is CAP, this is cap right here. Then that looks pretty good for Ulquiorra, right? Because he is, other than that though, his gear is good. Like, his gear is set up in the way it should be. He has all of his benchmarks, 5,000 here, 182 here, a bunch of ult charge, or a little bit of ult charge. Like, he's good, but we just cannot get our hands on that core stamp. So let's give it a go. I haven't really touched my Aizen in forever. His gear is good. This is higher than 56%, obviously. 142% here. Some ult charge, spirit damage, etc., etc. No core stamp dupes or weapon dupes to speak of, and no boundary to speak of. This will be a big deal. I think boundary 1 Aizen is very important for making the Ulquiorra rotations feel smooth, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Last but not least, I will go in with a double support team. So I'm going to try once with Aizen and Szayel, then I'm going to try once with Urahara and Szayel, and we're just going to compare. We're going to compare, because maybe it ends up being the case that with a B0 Aizen, maybe you do want to run double support. Maybe if you have a B4 Aizen or something, you could run him with, I don't know, maybe Toshido and Momo, and then run Ulquiorra with double support. And then if we ever have an event where you need 2 spirit teams, you can do something like that. I don't know. This is all just spitballing. This is all just off the top. So let's just get into the showcase and we'll see how he does, right? And we come back in on the actual fight itself. Let's check this out. So we go in with Szayel, and reminder that this is going to be my first time actually trying out a training mode test of this character. You might be wondering, well, Lone, why don't you just optimize? Why don't you do all the training off screen and, you know, come back when you've got all these reps in and the like? I don't disagree with that. You know, maybe you want to just see optimized rotations. The thing for me though is I do want you to see the character out of the package, right? because maybe you don't have all the time in the world to just grind these rotations. Maybe you don't have all the time in the world to, you know, sweat this game, right? So you should see what the character just looks like. Hey, I'm on the bus, I'm on the train, I'm at work, maybe I'm coming home from school. What does this character look like when you're just like, you know, playing on your phone, playing casually, right? That is sort of what we're going for. That's what I go for. Again, I try to appease the median. I try to appease the free-to-play, the median, etc. So these are not going to be the most perfect rotations. You can probably squeeze a lot out of it. I did try to get all of my Ulquiorra ults off in the Aizen ult, but if I'm honest, Kyoka Suigetsu's many like, you know, mechanics sort of did evade me during this, I think, but I was impressed. In total, I was impressed. The character is gorgeous, by the way. So that's another like big quality that this character has over other characters. Just absolutely gorgeous. There is a lot of swapping, but it's not overwhelming either. It's a fun team to play, but it would be infinitely more fun if I did have the B1 Aizen. For you Aizen enjoyers out there, I do think you should pick this character up. Not only that, but I said it before and I'll say it again. I expect if you have B4 Aizen, this sentence isn't for you. But if you have B1 Aizen, maybe even B2 Aizen, I would expect the free-to-play player Aizens to sort of be phased out soon. I do have that suspicion. It just feels obvious. I think they want to set these characters up with new meat. You know, they want you to pull for new characters. That's how mobile games work, right? As good and as, you know, low to the ground as the power creep has been in this game, very, very, you know, incremental, not too much at any given time in this game. As good as it's been, we will slowly start seeing that progress move forward. And they're going to continue to sort of introduce characters. I mean, it's why I say that true Shikai Ichigo to me is going to be a thrust character. But if he is a slash character, it wouldn't really surprise me either. Just because I think that... I think that it is kind of time for them to move it forward, right? They want to power creep these teams a little bit by little bit, and it's what sort of makes the... It's what makes the game, you know... It's what makes the game beautiful, right? Like, where they don't phase out your free-to-play box. They just sort of move the needle forward, and I do like that a lot. You can see we're almost at 140 million damage here, which isn't too bad for a 2-minute run. We'll get a little bit more in. By the way, I'm not the most like traveled when it comes to Szayel Lapido rotations or Aizen rotations at this point. Aizen as support rotations. Aizen as DPS rotations, obviously we've all got one of those in our pocket, but a very awkward team to play in a lot of ways. I think Szayel Lapido is pretty smooth. I just don't get an opportunity to use him a ton in this role. Usually he's on a double support team, which means he is somehow playing even further back. That is sort of a thing that changes the context of characters a lot. You might think, well, why would it change Szayel Lapido much? It's because now we're thinking about two characters operating as DPSs while also trying to fit Szayel Lapido's rotations in. Whereas when you're trying to fit two supports in, much, much easier. But as we come to the end of this one, I do want to say that 11 million there, by the way. I was very impressed. I think this is a great character. We try to get one more little bit of damage in with this character here. Oh, it looks like we're popping everything. We do have plenty of Kyoka Suigetsu time left, which is juicy. And there we have it. Maybe Seto? Yes, and we blast out. Such a smooth character, man. So pretty. But yeah, let's get to the numbers, and we'll see how we did. I'll see you over there. And there you have it. I mean, that was impressive. I know that you could look at this and be like, oh, well, he didn't do as much damage as my Grimmjow, as my Kenpachi, but... that was impressive. 205 million, 1.71 million DPS, all B0 characters, all B0. Considering a lot of people, if not, I feel like most people at this point have a better Aizen than me. I mean, my Aizen is not B1, which I think is the break point. My Szayel Lapido is literally missing his core stamp, and I think this is within 5 million damage of Grimjo's day 1 output that I had. My day 1 Grimjo with Soifon, my Soifon who has B1, my Mayuri who had, I'm going to say that tentatively, my Mayuri had 3 dupes into his core stamp during his showcase. And also, by the way, Mayuri is the best character in the game, to me, for free-to-plays. If you are a free-to-play or low-spending player, I believe that Mayuri is the best character in the game. So, consider that much. Grimjo on a team with Soifon, who's a newer character than Aizen, Mayuri, who's a new character than Aizen, and Szayel, who is, I would say, about, you know, in the same realm of newness as, you know, the other characters I just mentioned, literally coming out right after them. It is equal to this Ulquiorra, who is playing with like the gun half cocked here. So yeah, I don't know. I think he's very impressive. I think he's very, very impressive. As you could see, the rotations weren't smooth at all. I mean, the character is not like, oh my god, he's impossible or anything. But considering Aizen is just not made to perfectly fit with him, especially unless you get Boundary 1 Aizen, it's tough, man. Don't be confused. If that character had a Hollow Ichigo or a Soifon, I think Ulquiorra explodes. But he is selfish. He is selfish and Aizen is selfish. And that's just the reality of it. That is just the reality of it. I think, you know, our boy, he's a lover and a fighter. You know, he's out there, but I think Ulquiorra looks really strong. And I don't have any, like, reservations about saying that. Very fun, very visually fun. A lot going on with the character. Let's just show, by the way, again, to compare. Szayel, like I said, does not have his core stamp at all. And if you're wondering, like, well, does that really matter? It matters a lot. I cannot pull this thing. So at the start of battle, the entire team gains 3 stacks of his intel control. That's the whole thing. When Resurrection is released, immediately grants all spirit characters sample analysis. Sample analysis is the one that gives spirit characters additional, that increases their crit damage, yeah. And within 20 seconds after using a special attack, all spirit characters gain 40% increased crit damage and 15% increased ultimate charge rate. Like, that is intensely important to have, and I just haven't been able to pull it. I always say this is the free-to-play channel, the low-spending channel. If you want to count the $5 a month I spend to make sure I get the B0 characters, then, you know, you can call me low spending. I wouldn't say that's low spending. I'd say you'd have to at least put the $60 in or something for one of those actually good packs, or $30 or whatever. But if you want to say, hey, you spend $5 a month for the weekly or the monthly, that means you're a low spender, sure. But that's the reality, is I do not have enough core stamps to go around for all of these core stamps. So when I miss one, I realized that it was either spend all of my core stamps on Szayel or get Grimjo's core stamp the day he came out. And I chose to get Grimjo's core stamp the day he came out. So that's just how it went. At some point I will come back around. If I ever get a lucky core stamp, I'll be able to come back around and actually pick up Szayel's core stamp. But for now, I'm impressed. I'm just really impressed. I think this character is good. Also, by the way, I'm using his Bunk Bond. So I could have actually been using this one and gotten a little bit more damage out of him, but I chose to use this one. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there with double support. So let's say you're someone who decided to play this game during this patch. You're someone who decided to play this game during this patch, and instead of grabbing Aizen, you grab Szayel, which I do think is the preferred pick, by the way. I think we're going to lose Aizen soon, and I don't think we're losing Szayel soon at all. I think Szayel is around for a while longer. So let's say that you've re-rolled and your account is Ulquiorra, Szayel, and you need a tactics character. I'm going to try him out with Urahara in this spot, okay? I'm probably not going to show the run. You know what this is going to look like. It's going to be Urahara comes out, slash, ult, Szayel comes out, technique, ult, like, you get it. So I'm just going to skip to the damage, and we're going to see if it's comparable, right? especially with that Aizen, that B0 Aizen rotation being a little clunky. Mind you, these are not perfect Ulquiorra rotations. This is my day one of using him essentially, and like right after gearing him. So let's just get into it and see how it goes, and you know, we'll lock in with the numbers right after this, okay? And as sort of expected, you're doing about a half as much damage essentially as you would be doing with an Aizen on the team. This is because Aizen's buff damage, not only his debuffs but his actual buffs, his giving of, remember, he's giving Szayel the full passive as well because you're running a full spirit team. But I will say that you can still see that Ulquiorra is still putting up 80 million, and 80 million is, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't 80 million nearly enough to clear most tower floors? If I'm not mistaken, maybe you'll struggle with the last tower floor, but 80 million, 87 million, I guess, total damage is almost about what you need to clear every floor of the tower, which is probably the breakpoint. I could be misremembering, but I do remember most of my characters doing about 100 million at the end of their tower floor, so there you have it. Again, not optimal or anything, but it shows you that Ulquiorra definitely does stand on his own and is very, very much worth committing for, because I do think, again, Szayel, who I do not have the core stamp of, Ulquiorra, and then a possible coming Bankai Rukia, Spirit Tactics Uryu, Harabel, Tactics Harabel maybe at some point. Like, this could be the way forward in the next, not next character, because that's Trishikai Ichigo, but the character after Trishikai Ichigo very much could be this like character for Ulquiorra. Again, I do think that the goal with these games is to support the character that came last, and in this case, we do see that Ulquiorra is outstanding, but he is sort of missing that final piece to get over the hurdle. Would you really want to skip him? I would say pull for him if you feel like pulling for him, but if you already have a Hitsugaya who's duped, maybe, because I do think he clears Hitsugaya unduped. Unduped, there's just no choice. Maybe even clears him at B1. Probably doesn't clear B0 versus B2. That's just my expectation. That's just my calculation in like my head. My napkin math. Don't take that seriously. Maybe your Hitsugaya does 1 billion damage when he's B1, B2, or B1. If you get him B1, that just goes up and up and up. Oh my god, he probably like explodes. I think B1 is the perfect amount to get for him, even if the B2 does look really good itself. I would compare this to B1 of Grimjo. I might return for the B1 eventually. Maybe once I'm at about 24,000 Jade again or something like that, I'll return for a video to get the B1. That'll probably be somewhere around like week 2 of this patch, where I'll just be like, let's go for it. Because I do love Ulquiorra. Ulquiorra, that's just for me, not because I think you need to, by the way. I just love Ulquiorra. Ulquiorra is one of my prize picks in this game. So yeah, that's been me. I've been Lone. Again, put out the good vibes out there. Like if you like the video, subscribe to the club, we're gonna make it, and peace.